win here, they can really stamp their name and say that we deserve to be in the conversation of favorites for the tournament as well, with a priority pick on Caitlyn of all things. We've seen Deft grab this champion multiple times throughout the tournament, and that is someone that I really want to talk about as we get into game. Deft and Jackie Love's stories and journeys to this point, even in a best of one, is just so hype as we're going fast through this draft.
And right now, it looks like we might have the Chovy Galio now locked in. It may not be the biggest playmaker in the world, but Chovy certainly comfortable on it. Pioshik with his namesake there, of course, meaning Mark in Korean. He was former Kindred One Trick coming up on the ladder. Certainly loves to play the champion, and given his choice, he is now going to bust it out.
And the analyst just talked about kind of the different styles that these junglers bring. The fact that Pioshik can be that carry of the team, whereas KaiSser will be a bit more of a facilitator. And while he is on something like a Graves, he'll still take a lot of his time to gank and help out his team. Now with Chovy on the Galio, that just empowers Pioshik even more, that he can go deep, that he can farm up, that he can be this hyper carry late game. And with Caitlyn, Galio, and Kindred, you already have a very strong late game from DRX.
Yeah, getting some front line as well as 280 threats for your back line. Now the Camille immediately going to be banned away from Doran. See what else they want to do to try to set 3-6-9 up for a comfortable matchup on the top side of the map. With the Ashe already locked in, support is going to be the big follow-up question. Blitzcrank has been taken away. Now, generally so far in the tournament, it has been a little bit more of a defensive options for top Esport, a lot more Senna, Tom, Kensha in the bottom lane, whereas the side of DRX, the more aggressive picks like the Dravens, the Caitlyns, paired with champions like the Pantheons have come out. So while both these supports certainly can play anything, we'll see if those stylistic trends continue.
And that's also the big thing is Lux being taken away now. Naturally, Thresh has also slipped through as well as Nautilus. Both those champions can still work very well with Caitlyn here. You go maybe the traditional route of the Morgana, although I don't think Morgana's that strong, but that's also one of the big picks that we see teamed up with Caitlyn.
And debating their final option here, the final ban, they're taking Lux away as well. So respecting the battle for early lane domination, and instead it'll be the Morgana banned out by the side of DRX. Obviously a lot of pick potential on that champion, as well as the Black Shield to mitigate any potential engage.
Now, two of the big tanks that have slipped through have been the Ornn and the Shin. Now, normally we've seen more of the traditional bruisers coming out of Doran and 369. It would be a bit risky to blind pick a tank here just because Doran still has plenty in his wheelhouse that he could try to punish one of those champions. Had a phenomenal Jace performance just earlier today. And I like this, it's ambiguous. It's got the flex potential of being the support Lulu as well as being that top Lulu that Nuguri pulled out later on, or earlier on.
Yeah, and it's a difficult bet now because at this point you can opt for something like the Karma and try to match the lane pressure that essentially TRS are threatening to put on the table. Now you may find yourself up against an engaged support, and some aggressive early action could also limit your impact. But now DRX, after some aggressive early picks, are balancing it out with a little more safety on the top side of the map. It will be the Ornn for Doran. Of course, this matchup would not be fun if it was the Lulu top coming in for 3-6-9, but would be survivable. And Ornn, of course, notorious for the scaling that he can bring. And so now Bard looks to be the final pick. If it's a melee support, Bard can little bully out with the range advantage, and if it's a range support, you can always just wait for that ult to come up and available. So generally, again, it feels like a safe pick, and I like the way that DRX have rounded out their draft here. Just feels very stable. I
feel like this draft is just absolute draft kingdom from DRX. This feels so potent and powerful. Now we have kind of the Hail Mary for 369 to grab the Vladimir, but you know, your two big carries, Knight and 369, are magic damage. Doran's going to be able to itemize very strongly for that, as well as the Galio. So those champions should lose a lot of their kill pressure. And while a lot of the eggs are in the Deft and Pioshik basket, you know, there's a very real world where top esports' composition just runs out of steam and can't damage the itemization from DRX.
Very true. Lots going to come down to this early game, as we've seen. Games very often decided early on, not always brought to the point where it's scaling, although these two teams known to trade blow for blow. Level 1s is always going to be crucial here. No more bar fights, I think it's safe to say, although these teams could surprise us. It's got to be about finesse. It's got to be the cleanest game of League of Legends you played, because again, the stakes, first seed and second seed, is a big difference in terms of what opponent that you will face. As we have, oh, here we go. The clean fist bump. There was some debate. They didn't know if it was time to shake hands yet, but they get there in the end.
BSYY looked like he was about to face off there, pulling him to the front of the stage, but strong fist bump as we say goodbye to our coaches and we say hello to entering on the Rift. And what you were saying, Dracos, is a very important match. This could be a preview of a best of 5 that we will see later on in the tournament. And for me, it's about solidifying top as a favorite for the tournament and solidifying DRX as a dark horse for it. Kind of some inconsistent or volatile performances, but when they shine, when they brute force through teams, they look absolutely brutal.
Looks like we didn't miss out on too much of a level 1 as we are now 40 seconds into the game. Calm for now, but late invades have been the story so far. Pioshik already putting his mark onto KaiSser as is standard with the Kindred here. We'll keep track of where those marks are spawning in the jungle to see how Pioshik does for getting them early on. Of course, reminder, first seed, and you're drawing up against the other second seeds. That is JD Gaming, G2 Esports, and Fnatic. If you get second seed, you have to play against either Suning, Damwon, or Genji if you're coming out of this group. So those are pretty much the options ahead. And I think at this point, as much as I love the LEC, first seed is looking like the safer bet.
We do have that delay invade. KaiSser spotting it out there on the Bard right there as a ward goes down on the red buff. So trying to get information about where Pioshik is going to start and how KaiSser will path around that. Also another very defensive ward from top coming on the Dragon Pit. So trying to check if Pioshik did start red and then would use his Q over the Dragon Pit wall to then invade blue buff, which means that KaiSser can actually feel really confident to just slowly full clear his topside camps.
And for now, Chobi's going to have pressure advantage in mid lane, but of course he's trading his own life to secure CS and wave pressure. Eventually that will turn against him, so has to be careful about that one. Deft and KaiSser holding on to lane control. Early range advantages, and of course the notorious Bard level 1 are going to make things easier, but as level 2 starts to come in, Lulu is going to be more of a threat in terms of relative damage output than the Bard.
And I do want to take a moment, as we're kind of in the lull state as junglers farm and laners are fighting. Deft is such a powerful laner, and now being really empowered with this Caitlyn, this Bard combo that you just talked about. And the fact that it was a priority pick for a Caitlyn, a champion that had kind of disappeared when we came into play-ins. KaiSser on record said that he wanted to get the World Championship for Deft. And this guy has had such a long career. Samsung Blue, EDG, had that short stint in China, then went back over into Korea. And he's now looking across at Jackie Love, who in his first year picked up a World Championship. And now is one of the favorites to win 2.
A difficult position to be in for sure. Deft feels like one of the greats who never quite got there, whereas Jackie Love feels like he's one of the greats because he did.
It's almost an ambition-esque storyline for Deft at this point. And while everyone is looking at Damwon and Top Esports and JD Gaming, you know, DRX has fallen a little bit down on that list. And so I really want Deft to have a breakout performance. You know, he pulled out a bit of the ego, picked the Draven into Jackie Love, and kind of had some egg on his face. But this time around on more of his big comfort pick of the Caitlyn, I want to see this guy shine and really say, no, I am here to lift the championship. Because like you said, probably one of the last greats that doesn't have the title to the name.
Very true. And of course, for many players, it always feels like a timer playing against your own age, and Deft definitely one of the older players on stage today. But we'll see how long he wants to continue stepping forward, continue trying, and certainly a win here would feel good heading in as that first seed. We check in on the jungle matchup, however, and the lane priority paying off. We got 1 Scuttle Crab, now we got 2 Scuttle Crabs for the side of DRX. You did see Bard walking up, conceding a bit of pressure on the bottom side, giving up Deft to be a bit more vulnerable in lane so that they could make sure that Scuttle Crab would go over to Pioshik.
Yeah, and obviously mid lane priority is super important when you have a Kindred, especially for those early levels, because your first mark will spawn on Crab, and making sure that Pioshik already has a mark to his name off of that top Scuttle Crab. So next mark will spawn on one of these smaller camps. So hopefully Pioshik wants it to probably spawn on the bottom side of KaiSser's jungle and then use the priority that Deft and KaiSser can acquire down here to walk in and steal that one away.
The good news, of course, for TES is now that they are getting starting to get bot lane priority here, as Jackie Love is winning out in these health trades. And of course, once Ashe gets a push, pretty easy for her to sustain it. That said, they are still battling back for now, as constantly we see KaiSser roaming up just a little bit just to threaten. But it's Deft who's paying the prices. That's a big chunk of damage down onto the Caitlyn. And you can see he was ready for it. He has Endurance to start it off, so just mitigating the damage that he can. He wants to catch this wave, but it does mean that we'll probably get a free back here for Jackie Love. Could get cheeky and stay for the plate. Of course, not sure if they saw that Kindred had already backed and reset, or if it's just the confidence of KaiSser being on that side of the map that means they want to sustain this pressure. But the difference in itemization, once Caitlyn gets that big BF sword, it is going to get a lot harder. So maybe Jackie Love just trying to take this window of opportunity.
And it's also always going to be a really nice thing for Ashe to take hyper-aggressive trades, especially when Jackie Love has the Biscuit advantage, so knowing that he can trade health here. And they do have a ward on the Raptor camp, so they knew that Pioshik, if he was bot side, it would be in the Krug camp. but Pioshik has now gone over Q on the Dragon Wall. We talked about how his next mark would be spawning in TES's bottom side jungle, and that's exactly what happened. They've unlocked Keria, and boom, 2 marks there for the Gromp. The next one can spawn on a lot more camps, so it should be a little bit harder to predict where his 3rd mark will spawn.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, getting 2 marks this early from Kindred without any actual conflict, just getting it from PvE feels good, and fantastic use of the pressure from the team to set him up to do so. That said, obviously, Ash now going to get her first back for JackeyLove. Boots 2, trying to weave in and out a little bit more on the autos, and we're still waiting to see what the first back will hold for Def. He's going to be back in with a lot more money, however, so BF should be pretty easy, and if he's able to grab Boots as well, it is going to make this lane phase that much easier. Yeah,
especially because JackeyLove already got that back in, now has the Zerker's Greaves to his name, so really making use of the attack speed. Wants to try to keep Def locked into this lane as quickly as possible.
Chovy hovering in the darkness. Of course, they are going to spot him out. They have to be careful. Chovy pretty comfortable in the 1v1, but not nearly tanky enough with the Predator option to survive much past that, so we'll use the Predator defensively here.
Oh, Pioshik's going to get another mark. He is flying through this jungle right now.
And they're pulling a Bard as well. This is so fantastic. Meanwhile, JackeyLove is just catching a wave. Lulu has opted to reset. And what we're witnessing right now is PvE genius, as Pioshik going to grab his 3rd mark already. And again, 4 marks is a big deal. It's an extra 75 attack range. Of course, from that point on, you're getting diminishing returns, but that's the big break point that you look out for. And that's going to make Kindred so much stronger in these fights, whereas normally your low range is contending with Graves. An extra 75 makes it much, much easier.
And I really want to compliment all of the resources that DRX have put into covering Pioshik there. You know, like you said, pulling up the Bard to help invade on the Raptor camp or be there just in case. Chovy constantly contesting for pressure, moving with his jungler. Just really beautifully done in the first 7 to 8 minutes of this game, even though it feels like no action has happened, to put Pioshik on such a huge advantage.
Yeah. Of course, as we check in across the map, CS numbers are relatively similar. No one giving up massive lane advantages quite yet. The big difference on the top side is going to be the Cole for Vladimir. 269 taking one from the book of Nagri on that. And obviously, Vladimir is always going to be this massive late-game scaling threat. When he's strong, it feels like there is no room to interact with that champion. But that said, you are going up against the incredible gold value that Ornn can bring to the table with some of those item upgrades.
Now, the initial resets have come in. Dracos, you were talking earlier about the BF sword for JackeyLove. He now has it, and you can see that they have much more control over here. But I do want to compliment JackeyLove. Walked over and actually peeked in on the Gromp camp. Pioshik was in a reset. He checked his red buff and is now on his own Krug camp. So finally, KaiSser will slow down some of this mark stacking by denying the 5th mark away from Pioshik by taking this Gromp, and now handing the blue buff over to Knight.
Yeah, solid so far.
Pioshik does have a control ward, though. If KaiSser peeks in, like if they get information that KaiSser moves to topside when his camps spawn, Pioshik can try to go over the wall and solo the dragon, which is why I think it puts pressure on top to try to get mid-priority here by pulling KaiSser into lane and rotate into Infernal.
Thing is Carrie's only level 5. That arrow still connects. Wow, big hitbox. Def gonna go over the wall, though, to make it out of this one. Clean portal to take him out to safety. The sidestep to dodge the stun is big, but they can't quite finish the job. Are they gonna push more for this one? It doesn't look like it. Good pressure coming in from TES, but the fact that Def survives that is a miracle.
Really cleanly played from both teams, and this is what people wanted to see when you have such superstar-studded rosters take the Rift. You know, the Bard portal was so nice, but the sidestep from Lulu to make sure that Bard couldn't connect the Q on the stun. The fact that the arrow didn't connect to start it up. And now we have a trade, a handshake on these objectives. Infernal for top, and Herald now for Pioshik.
Immediate trade back. Of course, Def not really able to win out on the sustained damage trades. Here is, little Lee Sin BM there, knowing he wants to fight out on that 1v1.
Look at Knight. He's standing on the Raptor camp. I think he was denying the Raptors themselves. So now, thank you, Observer, showcasing that Pioshik decided to handshake on it, took the Herald, knowing that the fight was lost bot side. He did his Raptor camp while the skirmish was happening, then rotated immediately up into Herald, checked over for the Raptor camp, and Knight brilliantly stole that one away, so denying now 2 marks away from Pioshik.
And I'm just double checking that we got the number on the marks right, because the fact that it's continuing to spawn on Gromp and Raptors indicates to me that it might still be mark number 3 that we're waiting on, not mark number 4, but we'll keep you updated.
Ooh,
on
it is
that
mark
one.
3.
Yeah. Get the confirmation though before we go too hard on it. So not quite 3 marks currently, actually. So the 4th mark's still spawning on.
Now
Raptors.
I'm less excited.
There you go. No, it has 3 marks. It is on mark 4.
Yeah.
So not quite. It's not the 5th mark, and it's not the 3rd mark. We're both a little off on that one. Meanwhile, on the top side of the map, we're going to continue to see, it's not a wet noodle fight, but it's kind of like a flex off. Like, no one's really doing any damage. They're just looking for some style points here. They're just looking for these small incremental advantages. Pretty impossible to extend any really meaningful lead here at this point in the game in the top lane.
And I think at this point, DRX need to be a little bit more creative about how they're unlocking Pioshik. Because right now we're just sitting in solid farm lanes, and while this does really well for the scaling options that DRX still have, Kindred is no longer getting the same access into the jungle that she once was. So I think maybe you try to play behind Deft and 3v3 this bot side, and then use either a kill by placing a mark on one of the enemy champions, or then using that to snowball in. But KaiSser knows that Pioshik will be bot side, has denied another mark, and arrow goes wide.
Goes wide. Ooh. Unfortunate. That certainly would have been a kill on the Keria. And I think the big response is obviously an option. We'll hold that thought as maybe we see a bit of action here on the top side, but just looks like a little bit of a health trade here. The Vladimir ult will bring 369 back to about full. I was waiting to see if they would use the Bard ult to try to force a play of their own, but definitely Keria playing with fire there. That could have been really embarrassing to walk up and immediately get one shot like that. Could have been a big difference, but now the whole team playing on the bottom side. They're a little bit late for that mark. But Pioshik here for a little bit more pressure is level 8, matching KaiSser pretty well at this point in the game, about a 2-camp advantage.
Yeah, he's got the Herald behind him, so they want to drop this for plates for Deft. Usually when he's on the Caitlyn, it's just about putting as much gold as possible into him.
And of course, Stormrazor is an incredibly oppressive laning power spike. If they are able to extend this lane phase, maybe why they are dropping it in this circumstance rather than trying to use it to eliminate a tower entirely.
Or racing for Raptor camp right now. KaiSser was hanging behind his bot lane, just making sure that Chovy wasn't rotating for the dive. And now he's going to Raptors, but
setup is there, but I don't think he can connect the stun. No, Lulu just close enough to the wall, and now the follow-up is coming through. Deft trying to do the damage, but JackeyLove exhausted, still free firing there. Chovy running his way in, but they'll get the TP. They'll back off, not wanting to commit for anything else. But in the meantime, KaiSser also got the Raptors.
It's an arms race right now. It's KaiSser trying to deny and control this Kindred as much as possible. And they had this one window where he was like, I need to go to the Raptor camp. And then immediately Kindred changed target, tried to execute on the dive. It was Knight that caught it. So they've managed to slow down kind of the early farm scheme of DRX. And again, no one's died, but there's just been so much of a cat and mouse game, if you will, around these camps.
Interchanging marks, it looks like, aiming for the Graves. KaiSser has to be careful on this one. Level advantage for the Kindred. Big damage now coming in. Ornn from a very long range away can help. It's going to force the flash out from KaiSser. No mark here, but we'll still take the camp away.
I feel like Pioshik is done with this. Puts the mark on Graves, and it's like, I'm coming in whether you like it or not. There's either a mark or it's you. Like,
it's like
one or the other.
Mark's on you, mark's on the camp. Meet me there at dawn. We do battle. And in this case, they're going to be doing battle for the Gromp. Again here, as Knight checking on the red buff on that one. They're going to donate the blue over as well. This feels like such a battle. These mid laners look like they're playing mid lane, but they're not. They are both supports for their junglers, trying to deny enemy junglers opportunities, trying to set up marks for Kindred. Of course, we will come to a head when it all meets into more of a team fight phase.
They are bringing the whole squad to this Gromp right now.
We've watched so many games where laning phase has ended at 2 minutes.
We are teleporting for the blue Gromp fight.
That's right. Oh, clean flash on the Knight. That's an excellent start to the fight, but it might not be enough. The immediate flash over the wall, but this does mean the Gromp for Pioshik, or should, as it is now respawning. But TES, they will not go quietly into that 4 marks. The flash over the wall coming out, though, certainly should mean that Pioshik can get it. You thought dragons were important, but let me tell you, this Gromp is everything, and Pioshik secures it. 4 marks for the Kindred, 75 bonus attack range, and that's gotta feel nice.
Not only that, but then also so much damage onto this tower and the Cloud Dragon that will be spawning. As long as Chovy and Deft just hold their lanes, you could actually have the Kindred solo this one away, especially because Knight doesn't have TP.
And this has been simultaneously very tense and also very weird. I have never seen teams fight over Kindred marks like this in my entire life. I have asked in every solo queue Kindred game I have ever played, and I've never seen it happen once. I didn't know it was possible, but here today we get to witness it, Frostcurrent.
I've been preparing for this, Dracos. I made a Kindred-only account. I've been grinding it. I got it up to level 20 so far.
Yeah.
And I've been waiting for this moment, so I'm glad it finally paid off.
There you go. Now 575 attack range. Good to have. Can hopefully cut out the Graves in the fights to come. That's what he's hoping to do. We look at the gold, though, only about 1,000 different. Tower taking down a lot of that standing gold means TS will have opportunities to even it out, and it is one Drake to one Drake. Mountain Soul going to be the big deal here, and of course, very important. Yeah, you can see there it said 675 earlier. It's 575 on that Kindred range, not quite that strong. But for the Galio and the Ornn, those Mountain Drakes are going to feel pretty good.
And reminder that our conversation about draft phase in terms of itemization against some of the threats that TES have, the fact that you can itemize magic resistance really easily on Galio and Ornn could potentially just stall out Knight and 369, depending if they fall behind the clock or how far ahead of the clock that they stay. So that's what I'm watching out. I feel like it's still a long ways away, but it is something to keep into the back of your mind as we continue to slowly roll through this game at 16 minutes and 0-0 on the board.
Yeah, crazy that there has not been a kill yet.
I do love that 369 is still going the Nuguri build and went for the Spellbinder, so his job is to fly into that backline and just delete Theft.
Yeah, you gotta respect it. The man knows. He's got one shot and he's gonna take it. Course of this game, looking for those big team fight moments. And the latest first blood in group so far was 11:57, confirmed by Marcus, our wonderful stats guy. So yeah, we're about 5 minutes past that point now. So we now have simultaneously one of the most tense games of groups and one of the least eventful.
I feel like this mark will either go top or mid lane. I'd like to see it go mid to push it down, but maybe they decide they want to keep the mid towers because it's a free farm lane to park Caitlyn into, and that way she doesn't have to overextend. Yeah.
There's a weird handshake going on that this lane phase is just going to never end. We seem very committed to it at this point.
Yeah. I mean, both teams are... You look at both teams, you can see the scaling options that they have. It then comes down to execution.
Yeah, it's kind of the bet on the big team fight. Of course, things that DRX are going to be excited about, obviously the ability for, as you mentioned, Galio and Ornn to mitigate a lot of the upfront magic burst damage from the likes of Vladimir and Orianna. But of course, the additional fact that Galio can use that passive shield, will proc it on anyone that he is in the circle when he initially ults, can be a very big deal, sharing that shield over. And see if that can be enough to stop the burst damage, or that on top of the Lamb's Respite. Create some opportunities here, but it looks like the dance around the laning phase is done. The second Herald is going to be set up to break down some towers as Pioshik wanders around in the jungle, maybe hoping to catch Knight and the roam over.
He's on him.
That's going to be big. Galio shield now coming in. Knight now running for the hills. They can't finish that one off. Meanwhile, the rest of the team looking for the collapse here.
Watch the arrow on Jackie Love. Deft being very confident, the fact that he has Caliber Net as well as Flash available, but no cleanse.
Ooh. Intense again, because you're waiting. You're waiting for that ult flash coming in from the Vladimir. You're waiting for that arrow to find purchase, but it won't come through quite yet. Ornn about to hit 13. He's going to grab both of those early upgrades. 14, he can start to look to teammates as well. Jackie Love has now been caught. Trap on the ground, but they don't have any follow-up, really. The arrow will connect over. In the meantime, they interrupt the 90 caliber net. That's clutch. Now they're on the run, but Pioshik leaping forward. He has the Lamb's Respite to buy a bit more time, and he can take the Bard portal right back out. A lot of cooldowns exchanged. He's invulnerable in the timing. Oh, they just barely make it out to safety. Guardian proc saving the day there, but now Jackie Love is on the hunt. Pioshik needs to run for the hills. Raptors blocking a few shots.
Look at 369.
But not quite enough. Ornn pushing in on the top side. TES, I think they're just going to settle for the mid lane tower here, but they don't want to give it up. They're looking for a fight. Doesn't matter about the low health bars. They want to kick this one off. Chovy running in with the Predator. They refuse to give up any towers this game on the side of DRX.
And you could feel both team kind of flexing at each other, kind of calling some of these bluffs right there. We talked about, you know, the fact that you can snap grab Deft. He doesn't have the cleanse with an arrow, and Deft decides to roll it, now loses both his summoner spells as the Mountain Drake is about to spawn. Now, obviously, not the most important one. I think Deft will be fine that if DRX don't get a good positioning on this one, to let it go and continue to funnel farm into him. Now has 2 completed items to his name. But could be punished now. Needs to be a bit more respectful of that Ash Arrow, especially because Jackie Love also has his defensive summoners.
Absolutely. Of course, Ornn TPing him in may mean that he has to give up the top lane tower. Of relative less importance compared, but the longer the lane, the more time Vladimir has to potentially bully out here. So we'll be able to take this one down. More money into the pocket of 369 as Deft will finally break mid lane as well.
So it's top that decide to give away the second dragon. Staggering, or didn't really stagger their recalls, decided to back for items and then just give pressure for 369 to push down topside. So you may find Doran here, but Doran is a very beefy boy.
Yeah, kind of just walk back to his tower at this rate. Of course, extra movement speed from the Crimson Rush, fully stacked there, but will not opt to use any item actives, will not opt to use any greater cooldowns. And Frost Current, here's your fun fact. We're getting closer. Never mind, we're gonna hold that thought. Carry it, immediate flash out. But once again, just an incremental advantage. No kills going over to either side. And that brings me to my favorite point. Latest first blood of the entire tournament, not just groups. 21-04, that was in play-ins. And now that Def just flawlessly got Mikhails out of that one, it looks like we're going to beat that record in this game.
What's the longest a game has gone without a death at Worlds? Like,
I don't know.
What's the record that we're aiming for?
In LEC, it was 2017, 27 minutes Misfits versus Vitality. Not that we're keeping score, not that anyone had to gas that game. Don't know what it is at Worlds, however. Marcus?
Do you want to talk about it, Drake?
Do this actually? No, never again. Anywho, here we are in a very tense, I feel like to a certain degree, game of chess, but just clearly both teams very highly valuing this first seed, and a completely different side of both these teams than we saw the last time they met. I think it's safe to say.
I like to think of both of these teams as kind of the muscle of their respective regions. Like, don't get me wrong, Damwon, a lot of muscle still. But usually when I think about Damwon, it's like the muscle, the brain, the discipline. They've got like everything going for them. Whereas it feels like when DRX get their victories, it's really because they brute force you. They skill check you, and they like to flip. And Top, to me, is kind of the same thing, especially in comparison to a team like JDG. They can just outplay you and make things possible that you didn't think were possible because of how talented their members are. So I really want to see fights because I want to just watch the micro brilliance and how these teams will out-execute each other. But instead, I'm sitting here 23 minutes in at 0-0.
It's 22. Because if it was 23, we'd be on the cusp of a record. Fun fact, latest World's First Blood, 23-38. It was in the finals between Samsung and SKT. So
surely someone throws an arrow and catches someone right on the chin.
We were on the edge of death so many times for so many different people. Def should have probably died bot lane. Keria probably should have died bot lane as well. The arrow just went a little bit wide. Maybe Knight will go down. Only one team can walk away with first seed, but they can both walk away with the record of latest first blood.
This is how you really, you write your name in blood on the world's record stage.
There you go. Speaking of that, Vladimir now has the death cap, so he's going to be looking to write a lot more than just names down in blood on the next team fight, but still has to find the flank, has to find the execution, so we're right back to square one. Who can make it work? Who can find the team fight on their terms? Because so far this has been slow incremental advantage building for DRX, but not significant enough to mean too much in the greater scheme of things.
I think that it means things in the greater scheme of things in terms of that I still like DRX's composition better.
Oh, here we go. Big Horn. 23-38. 23-38. Can they live? Are we going to get the latest first blood of the world? Who's it going to be? Doran now getting caught out. Can they keep the fight going? This is it. The latest first bloods of the world, but who is going to get it in the end? They're running for the hills. They're buying a bit more time. Chovy's got the extra shield now coming in, but it's Vladimir right onto the backside. Big ulti, but maybe not big enough. Chovy seemingly going to be the first to go down here. The dash out, the Predator, not quite enough, but he goes through the portal, and there's Piochik with the ult. Oh, boy! Nobody's dying! Oh, man. What? But TES are going to get this mid lane tower. It looks like never mind! Knight's done! He has shown up, and now the follow, the flash immediate from Jackie Love, and just like that, the game explodes. Knight with a clean shockwave, clean follow from KaiSser, and now potentially Baron in the sights of TES.
And finally, we're on the board. You see the immediate on the way pings towards the Baron. DRX should know exactly what is up, but what can they do to stop this? Piochik does not tap flash. He is the same level as KaiSser, but they are melting through this, and it looks like DRX are just going to give it up.
DRX accept the loss on that one. Gold was dead even after that fight, but will not be dead even when this Baron falls. This is the opportunity for TES to knock down so many towers. DRX is grabbing what they can in the meantime, but top Esports, clutch fight there. Everything burned to save Chovy, to get him out to safety, but DRX stick around anyway, and it cost them so much.
Yeah, taking another look at this one, it was just ridiculous. The Bard portal, the Kindred ultimate, but the fact that DRX tried to plant their feet here, weren't keeping track of the cooldowns and decide to try to defend this one, group up on the tower, and it's just too easy for Knight. 3-man shockwave into the Graves ultimate. And like you said, Top just ripped this game wide open, just blasted DRX on mid-tower.
Yeah. Now so easy for them to push forward with this advantage. And of course, Vladimir got 100 stacks again. He's ready to go in at a moment's notice. He's ready to get a fight kicked off. Now they can grab a Mountain Drake of their own and really even things out. And as they start to knock down these towers, take away this standing gold, we should see this lead balloon pretty heavily for the side of top Esports.
What was a chess game has now had the board flipped, Dracos. And hopefully now the gentleman's agreement is off and we have a bit more back and forth here. Now checking in on itemization, Deft is so close to this Infinity Edge, and I think that's kind of the big power break moment for Caitlyn on this build path. And this still does feel like a composition that has a lot of room left to run in it for DRX, so they're definitely not out just losing this Baron. But now it's just chilling out, you know, trying to stop or slow down the siege that top can put forward here, and then looking to fight again once Deft is ready with another item.
And you know that the second that Infinity Edge comes through, Dorn will immediately upgrade it, so we will have a Molten Edge coming in for Deft. That's going to be a big deal, extra damage. Of course, the fear in the back of my head for DRX is that Vladimir's just going to one-shot people. Because when you got a Lulu whimsy on you, and you can just speed past all that front line, pull through the taunt, pull through any kind of way to mitigate it, it's certainly going to be difficult for Deft to survive. That said, that's if TES get to start a fight on their terms. So maybe some more room for DRX to find their own fights, especially with the power of Bard Ultimate.
Yeah, it's going to be watching the execution of these flanks as well as maybe even these picks from both teams, as Chovy might get walked down here. Look at top. They're starting to collapse on him from the top side of the jungle.
Dip, duck, dodge. Taunt goes in. Oh. Excellent use of the Justice Punch to make it out, but he gets pulled back. Pioshik. Immediate lands spike. Fantastic use of the Mikhails once again. Carry is so incredibly clutch, but they're going to try to finish the job. Graves ult across the back of the team, but 369 not going to pull the trigger. Does not want to go in on that one.
So nicely done from Chovy there. Meanwhile, Doran is left to his own devices on the top side. Does have the teleport available to him, but didn't pull the trigger on that one. And we talked about how all DRX had to do at this point was just kind of slow down the siege of this Baron buff. Kind of minimize what top were going to pick up with it, and then live to fight another day. And it feels like they're going to do that. The Baron will fall off pretty soon. You now have the TP on this tower, so I think that this is it for the siege for top.
No, not going to be able to break the base, not going to be able to grab any tier 2s either. So remaining a very much controlled game. Neither team looking to overextend. Important to note, though, that was a very close play. 200, 300 health, maybe, is what DRX are able to walk out with on the back of that one. So a few more items. Pioshik won't be so fortunate next time, especially if he continues to opt to build damage here instead of any kind of defensive stats. Not that I think defensive stats are the right choice, but that's just kind of the reality of the situation.
And literally on a knife's edge is a perfect description of this gold graph in this game. It is such a small margin that this is swinging on, and now it's just about who's going to be powerful when and who can execute the responsibility in their compositions. I like how you already highlighted 369 on this Vladimir, and the fact that with the Spellbinder, now looking at his Haunting Guise and his Death Cap, that he can one-shot Deft. And there's very little to try to stop him from doing that. You know, he doesn't have the Lulu to slow down Vlad and to make him bigger. He's got the Bard that's like, I can give you some cocoa, but that's about it.
Look, it's tasty cocoa, but that man's gonna shoot you in the face with some blood. So you gotta take your pick. Which one of those, you know, the positive, negatives there, don't think they weigh out. I didn't really know how to describe what he's doing. He's taking your blood out, I guess, and then hitting you in the face with it.
Accurate. But it makes their flank wards that much more important. You can already see Keria is starting to kind of peek out with those wards onto the flank, because you have to be able to see 369 coming, so at least Def can get a head start on wherever it is that he's running.
And good effort from TES right now to kind of systematically push their vision forward, knowing that Baron in a minute 26, Mountain in a minute 22. Of course, neither team set up for Soul Point quite yet, so we won't see that trade scenario that we often do unless someone falls flat on taking the Baron. I mean, this is way more tense than any of the battles for first I think we've seen in other groups, because they've always been bloodbaths. They've always been level 1s, or maybe one play where someone gets 3 kills and the game gets snowballed out of control. And well, someone did get 3 kills in that mid lane play, but it still feels very much dead even. Yeah, and I mean, we said it multiple times. It's simply because both teams feel really confident that they can play a slow game. I want to talk about itemization. Azael talked about it earlier today, and I just think it's a brilliant point. The Warmog's completed now for Doran, so he can go ahead and take kind of extended trades or trades with Vladimir, kind of walk back, heal full of his health, and then step back forward. So it should deny any sort of side lane pressure. Like, he is truly a brick wall. He is an unmovable object. You can push the wave into him, but you cannot move past him at this point with his itemization. And obviously the Leandries will help with that a little bit, but the Void Staff as well is, you know, 369 has just been farming up a Storm in the side lanes. The arrow now again going wide for Jackie Love. Not the greatest hit record on those arrows so far in this game. Maybe DRX feel like they can get something done here. Chovy, though, is going to take a lot of damage to the backside of this one. Meanwhile, Jackie Love has been caught out by Kyria. A flawless stun into the wall, but 369 does so much damage, while Ornn is certainly tanky. Chovy, not so much.
Yeah, and I think DRX are going to go ahead and give that one up. Really nice positioning from 369 to get underneath with multiple control wards and find the flank point. That Bard ultimate was basically a disengaged Bard ultimate as DRX realized that they did not have the high ground.
No.
And immediately walked away from that one. You already called it Draco Silv. That was not Soul, and Mountain Soul of all of them. As
Try to make it through that one. Have to wait for some of the cooldowns to go down. Carry gonna be a little bit in trouble. DRX, of course, moving towards the Baron, kind of threatening for that objective. TES called a bluff and instead pushed down mid-wave and looked to break this one. But KaiSser is in trouble. Pyosik now chasing him down. 1-2 looking for 3. Surely if he hit that last auto, KaiSser would have been done. But he does manage to make it out to safety. Is forced to burn his flash.
And I do like the fact that Pyosik is starting to get a bit creative here. You know, if you can find one of the stragglers from top esports, there's still a lot of skirmish potential here. Is now playing from Fog of War. Boom!
Excellent shockwave to start up, but they don't have the follow-up. Bardalt won't connect. They buy a bit more space, but that's Lamb's Respite down. A small window here for TES to find a kill with no chance to save that backline.
And I think it's just going to be the cooldown traded. Maybe if they had found a kill there, they go ahead and push onto the Baron, but instead staggering backs, getting deft into his items and blast cone over the wall.
We played 32 minutes of very little action, of some trades here and there, some trades of cooldowns for some fights. DRX have been lulled into a false sense of complacency because that is going to be Baron for TES. Soul point as well. Ooh, it's going to be responded shortly after the Baron falls away too. This is a good look for TES right now.
And just the disrespect, you know, the Scuttle Crab is down. DRX just kind of forgetting the split second about the blast cone, the ability for how late we are in the game, how many items we have, and how quickly either of these teams will shred the objective. Now 2 Barons to top's name. And again, that just puts DRX on the defensive. Can they survive it? You take one bad fight, especially this late in the game with the Baron buff, if there's multiple members, you shred through the towers. Yeah. It's game over.
But right now, I felt like execution was just so easy for DRX earlier on in the game, but because we've now hit this late game stage, while they certainly can just out-execute and win a fight, there's so much leeway when you have a level 18 Vladimir with 3.5 items completed, because if he ever finds an opportunity, regardless of what the team does, he can kill all of DRX.
We also need to talk about Chovy. He's got the Death Crown.
Knight. Did the ward spot them?
Shit.
They don't know. Oh my god, this is flawless play around Fog of War. Carry is walking forward. They think they have the bait. They don't know. They don't know. Oh, but the follow-up, I don't think that was a good Bardalt. That might not have been good at all, but maybe they can get the follow-up fight as well. Now instantly Knight's going to get popped. He has to find a time to use the shockwave. 369's been zoned away from the fight by Doran. So far, so good for DRX. That's going to be the 2-man knockup. So once again, 369 trying to find his way to the backline, and he's found Deft. That's going to be huge. Can he take him out? Deft trying to heal up as much as he can. He gets the magic damage shield coming in from Galio as well. It's a close fight. DRX into Lamb's Respite. The break is all they need. The rest is all they need, and they find that one.
So beautifully done, and I agree with you, Dracos. It almost looked like disaster when Chovy is thinking maybe he can try to find the execute on Knight, because this is a big AP Galio, and the Bard ultimate kind of stalls everything out there, but brilliant zone control from Doran and Chovy, as well as a clutch Kindred ultimate, means that ultimately DRX kills some of the Baron buffs and take down the mid tower.
And again, get ready for more of those, because every fight is going to feel like that. Every fight is going to feel like at any moment the game could end. A small win for DRX at the end. They still traded back and forth, still 2-4 the kill score. That was only a 2-for-1 in their favor despite everything burned. In a minute and 27 seconds from now and counting, it will be Mountain Soul on the board for TES, and certainly that should be enough to be the final knockout blow as we see this one more time.
And again, I'm thinking maybe some miscommunication, or maybe they intended that to be exactly as planned, but it does delay Knight, allows him to get his flashback off, and you think that could be disaster, but really good zone control from Doran. He finds 369, he manages to knock up 2 members, then immediately into stasis, and Deft then gets enough time with the exhaust on 369 to walk him down, not be under pressure. The Lamb's Respite comes in, Pyosik trades 1-for-1, dies on the back half of that, but does manage to allow Chovy to walk away.
Shut down to the Galio as well, and you saw in that fight big shield going on to Deft. That's a combination, it looks like, of both the Galio alt shield, where he's able to share the shield of Duran, as well as the Hex Drinker. So just, again, so incredibly close on the fight overall. A few less cooldowns on the side of DRX. It could have been disaster, but now they are setting up. They're trying to get ready for this fight as they push into their own jungle for vision control. All about vision until this dragon respawns.
Big thing is the flash and summoner spell check-in. So Chovy obviously not having his flash won't be the biggest deal. This guy's a pretty beefy boy, but Knight not having his flash on the Orianna could actually be massive. And you talked about the vision. Already, the Observer's doing a great job showcasing 369, using control where it's getting underneath, knowing that both teams are going to be gearing up for this dragon, and trying to find someone out of position.
No. They've all walked face first into the Vladimir, but who's caught who? Who's going to be able to find it? Pyosik going through, the arrow's finally going to connect. They've held on for now with the Lamb's Respite, but Knight coming in over the wall. The Baron setting the sights. The Dragon, rather. Dragon Soul for TES. Can they secure it? There's no way to stop it. They managed to grab it. That's Mountain Soul. DRX. This isn't the fight that they want anymore. They're pulling away. Def trying to throw down some last-minute damage, but big win for TES.
And 369 is just an absolute monster. That health back that he got off the Vladimir was absurd. It's also inside track now for top to push down mid lane. Maybe they just clean out this tower, kick it down, and Elder now on the board in 6 minutes.
And a 2.5 gold difference, 2,500 gold difference, but triple Mountain. It's going to be feeling pretty good when you have the Mountain Soul as well. Of course, maybe not the best users of it on this team, but still the extra shield to mitigate any kind of burst coming in will be good to have. And again, TES set a trap in the darkness, preying on the expectations of DRX. DRX, they think that TES have backed, they think that they've backed away. But instead, they're taking the Krugs.
They're covering 369, who's also escorting a minion wave down into the bot lane as they continue to siege while they have an opportunity to play bot side since Baron's not spawning until a minute 17. Meanwhile, you can see Dorn's immediately pulling the trigger and backing with his Bard as TES have called DRX's bluff. DRX were running up mid lane, and now they must respond to the charge that TES have on this bot lane.
Again, DRX thought that they backed, but they hadn't, and now the push is set up on the bottom side. The Bard ult will go wide. Ornn doesn't know where to throw the ult because he was blinded. So he throws it away from the enemy team. Now we have the rest of the damage coming in. Deft ult not going to do too much.
Look at the teleport.
The knock up onto Jackie Love. Vladimir now coming in. Galio on the backside as well. Deft with the immediate Mikhail's out to safety. Now trying to run, but that's going to be it once the front line is gone. The fight is surely over. Big fight for TES. Do they try to push their advantage here and just end the game? So many cooldowns are gone. There is no Lamb's Respite. There is no Galio ult. Deft doesn't have anything. Doran is dead.
But there's no minion wave.
How much are they willing to commit for this? How long are they willing to wait before this fight turns against them?
The wave just about to come back in.
I need to see how many stacks are on the Spellbinder for 369.
Yeah, watch 369. He's got flash and ultimate.
Shockwave's going to miss, though, and that's big. Pyosik healing back up. They need to get the wave clear down here. They don't have a ton of tools to do so, so it's going to be at least one. That's going to be the taunt in the middle of the fight. That's going to be the follow-up. Pyosik now going in, but they don't really have a good option for damage. But Jackie Love taking so much back in return. Deft, though, now the one in trouble, forced to flash out for safety. The flash into melee range, and the shotgun to the face. It's 369 now looking for a little bit more, and that's going to be it. TES, they find the fight in the base that they need. Carrier will buy a bit more time, but TES now just get to have fun. They now get to enjoy it. It was a chess match for 38 minutes, but in the last 20 seconds, it has been an absolute brawl, and it is TES who have come out on top, doing their region proud. They flash RNG, they flash IG, and now they're looking to style on the opposition as they will secure first seed in Group D.
And it got a little dicey there for a second in some of these team fights, but just so much discipline from both teams. It was a stalemate for so long, but everyone was fine taking the handshake on that, knowing that they could execute when it came to the late game.
But at the end of the day, it's Top Esports who execute better. Top Esports now locking the final first seed out of groups. They cannot play against DRX in the first round, but they can play against JD Gaming, G2 Esports, or Fnatic. So it's going to come down to facing the LEC or facing their brothers from the LPL and JD Gaming.
Can see some solemn faces there. It's never going to feel good in a game that tense in a moment so close to perhaps dodge one of these strong first seed teams, but ultimately to be a world champion, which both these teams feel that they have the talent to walk towards. You got to go through everyone. Doesn't matter if you go through them in the quarters or you go through them in the finals.
True. Absolutely true. And of course, the favorable first seed now for Top Esports. Already mentioned that. For DRX, they can face Gen G, Suning, or Damwon. And obviously, they've tried some of those opponents before with more or less success. Maybe they're hoping for Suning, maybe not. But we now have 3 LPL seeds through, 3 LCK seeds, and 2 LEC but it is certainly feeling like the LPL and the LCK are favorites for this tournament.
This is such a powerful top 8. Like, while again, there still feels like there's a cut above in terms of like the favorites to win the tournament, I've never seen such a strong collection of 8 teams in a world championship in a long time.
Neither have I. But let's take a chance to check out TES's Mercedes drive to victory with Knight's giant Orianna shockwave.
And this was the tense moment. This was the fact where, okay, we think we're going to have the longest record for a first blood not happening. I want to give a huge shout out to KaiSser, his sidestep around Doran there as they then walk DRX back towards the tower. You called it, Draco, says it was happening. So much was expended to try to save Chovy. He uses the Hourglass. He then makes his way, waiting on his cooldowns, back to the Bard portal, into the Kindred ultimate. But then DRX just kind of, you know, lose focus for a second, aren't taking stock of the cooldowns that are available, and get rocked by the Shockwave into a Graves ultimate.
Oh, he just sneaks it in here. Whoop. Don't mind this, it's just a little ball. Oh, wait! Bing, bang, boom. Easy finish. Ooh, and it's just brutal.
Ultimately, it felt like the big problem, though. Like, while that play was really flashy, and that was kind of like the big taste of action, it was 369 on that side lane. It was the fact that the Vladimir couldn't be stopped and just did so much massive damage. So that's what's terrifying about 369 and Top, is that they're a Trident team. They can carry through any lane. They can carry through Jackie Love. They can carry through Knight. They can carry through 369.
They certainly proved it today. But we're going to step away for a brief moment, but our Worlds 2020 coverage returns right after this.